Am I the asshole for refusing to sit next to a picture of my late husband at my daughter's wedding? My late husband, Tom, and I had a rocky marriage, to put it mildly. His alcoholism cast a long shadow over our lives, and after years of struggling to hold it together, I divorced him. He passed away a few years later, having drunk himself into an early grave. It was a painful chapter, one I've worked hard to move past. I've since remarried to a kind man named Richard, but my daughter, Emily, hasn't warmed up to him. She was in college when we tied the knot, and her resentment toward Richard has been a constant strain. She's never been outright cruel, but her coldness and occasional sharp comments make family gatherings tense. Now Emily's getting married, and I'm thrilled for her. She's found a wonderful partner, and I want nothing more than to celebrate this milestone with her. But as we started discussing the wedding plans, things took a turn. Emily mentioned she wanted to honor her father's memory by including a picture of Tom at the ceremony. I completely understand her desire to feel his presence on such a big day. He was her dad, and despite his flaws, she loved him. I was prepared to support that. But then she dropped a bombshell. She wanted me to sit next to his picture during the ceremony, while Richard would be seated elsewhere. She also planned for me to sit at the family table with Tom's picture, again with Richard excluded. The idea hit me like a punch to the gut. Sitting next to a framed photo of my ex-husband, who made my life hell for years, felt like a public erasure of my current marriage. Richard has been my rock, and relegating him to some distant seat while I'm positioned beside a ghost from my past felt disrespectful, not just to him, but to me. I tried to explain this to Emily calmly. I told her I'd be happy to have Tom's picture displayed somewhere meaningful, like a memory table, but I wasn't comfortable with her seating arrangement. She didn't take it well. Her face hardened, and she accused me of being selfish, saying I was disrespecting her father's memory and, by extension, her. The conversation escalated quickly. She doubled down, insisting it was her wedding and her way of coping with her dad's absence. I felt cornered. The more I tried to reason with her, the more defensive she got. Finally, I said that if this was her plan, I wouldn't be able to attend the wedding. The words slipped out in a moment of frustration, but I meant them. I couldn't imagine sitting through her special day, feeling like my own life and choices were being sidelined. Emily called me a jerk, and soon enough, the family grapevine was buzzing. My sister thinks I'm overreacting, and my parents are torn, saying I should just go along with it to keep the peace. But something about this feels deeply wrong to me. I want to be there for Emily, but not at the cost of my own dignity. This isn't just about a seating chart, it's about years of unresolved grief and tension. Emily's always held on to an idealized version of her father, and I've never tried to take that from her. But I can't pretend our marriage was something it wasn't, nor can I act like Richard doesn't exist. I'm torn between supporting my daughter and standing up for myself. The thought of missing her wedding breaks my heart, but so does the idea of sitting there, pretending I'm okay with this setup. I keep wondering if I'm being too stubborn, or if Emily's the one crossing a line by pushing this arrangement. Am I the asshole for refusing to sit next to a picture of my late husband? Am I the asshole for refusing to do my cousin's makeup for free? I'm a 21-year-old guy, working part-time as a makeup artist to help pay my bills. It's not just a job, it's my passion. I've done everything from prom looks to full-on glam for photo shoots, and I take pride in my work. My cousin Sarah, 25, recently asked me to do her makeup for a wedding she's attending. I was already booked that day with another client, but my schedule had some wiggle room. I told her I could squeeze her in if she came early, like crack of dawn early, and paid 70% of my usual rate. I thought it was a fair compromise, considering I'd be rearranging my day. Sarah didn't see it that way. She got all huffy, saying that since she'd brought home takeout for us the night before, I owed her. I was floored. If I'd known her takeout was some kind of barter system, I'd have passed on the lo mein. It's not like I was starving or begging for her food. Honestly, her attitude rubbed me the wrong way, especially since she's made snide comments before about my makeup style being too drag queenish. I'm queer and I roll with some amazing drag queens, so her jab wasn't just a critique. It felt like a dig at who I am. That history made me hesitant to help her out in the first place, but I still offered a solution. She pushed back, saying family should help family for free. I explained that I only do freebies for my mom or my closest friends, and even then, it's rare. My time and skills aren't just hobbies, they're how I make a living. Fitting her in would mean juggling a paying client's schedule, and doing it for free felt like a slap in the face. Sarah stormed off, and now my mom's involved, saying I'm being money-minded and should have just done it to keep the peace. I get the whole family helps family thing, but this doesn't sit right with me. Sarah's not entitled to my work just because we're related. The more I think about it, the more frustrated I get. Sarah's never shown much interest in my career until she needed something. Her comments about my style still sting, and now she's acting like I'm the bad guy for setting boundaries. I've spent years honing my craft, investing in quality products, and building a reputation. Doing free work for someone who doesn't even respect what I do feels like undermining all that. Plus, I was willing to make it work despite my booked schedule. She just didn't like the price tag. On the flip side, I can see why my mom thinks I'm being petty. Sarah's takeout gesture, while not a fair trade, was her trying to be nice. Maybe I could have offered a lower rate or worked something out. But the way she dismissed my offer and leaned on the family card made me dig in my heels. I've had other relatives ask for freebies before, and I've always held firm on charging for my time. If I start making exceptions, where does it end? I'm not a charity, and I'm not rolling in cash. Media Pathway 1. The more I think about it, the more I wonder if I'm being too harsh. But my gut says I'm not wrong for standing my ground. Sarah's attitude and sense of entitlement pushed me over the edge. I'm not here to be her personal makeup machine. I keep replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently. Maybe I'm letting my pride get in the way of family harmony. But I can't shake the feeling that giving in would have set a precedent I don't want to live with. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to do my cousin's makeup for free? Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my video games that involve magic? I'm a 28-year-old guy living with my mom, who's 56 and deeply invested in her Christian studies. We've always had an unspoken agreement to respect each other's beliefs or lack thereof. I'm not religious, and she's never pushed her faith on me too hard. But recently, things have gotten messy. My Nana, my dad's mom, is struggling with her mental health, and her faith has taken a hit. This has sent my mom into overdrive with her biblical studies and prayer, convinced that our family is under some kind of spiritual attack. Yesterday, she came to me with a wild request. Go through my video game collection and get rid of anything involving witchcraft, magic, or evil demonic forces. She even offered to pay me for each game I tossed. I was caught off guard. My game library is my escape, my hobby, my little corner of joy. I mostly play RPGs, games like Final Fantasy X, Tales of Vesperia, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Persona, and recently Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. These games are rich with story, strategy, and magic. To my mom, that magic is a gateway for familial spirits or curses to creep into our home. She genuinely believes my games could be harming our family. I scanned my collection, thinking maybe I could part with a couple to humor her. Dead by Daylight and Resident Evil 4 Remake might fit her demonic criteria, but that's a stretch. When I suggested those, she wasn't satisfied. She insisted any game with magic, any at all, had to go. That's like 85% of my library. I flat out refused. These games aren't just entertainment, they're a part of who I am. I've spent years collecting them, sinking hours into their worlds, and bonding with friends over them. The idea that my hobbies are inviting negative spirits into our house sounds like something out of a bad movie. Mom didn't take my refusal well. She doubled down, saying media like this can unknowingly invoke evil and harm our family. I got heated and told her it's ridiculous to think my games are cursing us. She countered that we need to involve ourselves with God to protect our family. I've grown bitter toward religion over the years because of this kind of mindset, and asking me to ditch my passion for a supposed family curse feels absurd. The tension's been thick since. Mom's been giving me the silent treatment, and I'm feeling both guilty and defiant. I get that she's worried about Nana and leaning hard into her faith for answers. But targeting my games feels like a personal attack, not a solution. I've always supported her right to her beliefs, so why can't she respect my hobbies? Part of me wonders if I'm being too stubborn. Maybe I could have offered a compromise, like keeping my games in my room or playing them less around her. But the more I think about it, the more it feels like giving in would mean letting her control a huge part of my life. I'm not hurting anyone by playing Final Fantasy. If anything, her insistence is pushing me further away from her faith, not closer. This whole thing has me questioning if I'm being selfish. Nana's struggling and Mom's clearly stressed, but I can't wrap my head around how my games are the problem. I want to stand my ground, but I hate the rift it's causing. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to give up my video games? Am I the asshole for walking out of Thanksgiving dinner over pumpkin pie? Thanksgiving at my mom's house is a rare chance for our not-so-close-knit family to come together. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and with my brother living in South Africa and me traveling constantly for work, we don't see each other much. Mom, who's 60, cherishes these gatherings, and we all try to keep the peace with a strict no-politics rule. But Mom has a habit of peppering me with passive-aggressive jabs about my career, my single status, my wardrobe, you name it. My brother, meanwhile, gets a free pass. I've called her out on it before, But she brushes it off, and my dad says it's just her way of showing she cares. It still stings, especially since I've been grappling with depression recently, which has shifted how she sees me. I know I messed up some things in my life, but her constant critiques wear me down. This year, I was put in charge of dessert. No one specified what to make, so I went all out with a maple cheesecake I thought everyone would love. I spent hours on it, and honestly, it looked pretty darn good. Mom usually makes pumpkin pie, but I can't stand pumpkins. They literally make me gag, so I figured a new dessert would be a nice change. As I brought out the cheesecake, Mom gave it this wary side eye and announced she'd made her usual pumpkin pie anyway. I was blindsided. When I asked why she didn't tell me, she said, "Well, we figured you'd do your own thing, so I thought it was best to have a backup." Ouch. She started slicing her pie and serving it, telling me to leave my cheesecake in the kitchen. When my brother's wife asked to try it, Mom waved her off with, "Let's not mix too many flavors at once." It felt like a deliberate dig. I was already raw from Mom's comments throughout dinner, little barbs about my unconventional life choices. That cheesecake moment pushed me over the edge. I know it sounds petty, but it wasn't just about the pie. It was the dismissal, the assumption that my effort wasn't worth considering. I politely refused the slice of pumpkin pie she handed me, grabbed my coat, and left. I heard my dad call after me, but I was already tearing up, and I couldn't bear the thought of breaking down in front of everyone. Crying over dessert? I felt like a teenager, not a grown woman. Later, Mom texted me, saying I was rude and immature for storming out, especially on Thanksgiving. My brother chimed in, calling me irrational. I feel awful for leaving. My parents aren't getting any younger, and we're already so distant. But something about Mom's behavior turns me into this oversensitive version of myself I hate. I keep replaying it, wondering if I overreacted. The cheesecake wasn't just a dessert. It was my attempt to contribute something meaningful to a family I barely connect with. Having it sidelined like that, while Mom served her pie like nothing else mattered, felt like a rejection of me, not just my baking. I get that walking out was dramatic, and maybe I should have stayed and talked it out. But in that moment, I just needed to protect myself from feeling smaller than I already did. Now I'm torn. Part of me wants to apologize to keep the peace, but another part feels justified in standing up to Mom's passive-aggressive control. So Reddit, am I the asshole for leaving Thanksgiving dinner over pumpkin pie? Am I the asshole for excluding my brother from my wedding because of his fun facts? I'm getting married to Mel, the love of my life, and we're planning a wedding that reflects us, not the chaos of my family. My older brother, David, 41, has always been a challenge. He was in learning disabled classes growing up, and my parents kept him sheltered, never letting him work or build a life outside home. Now in his 40s, he has no friends and dominates every family gathering with his fun facts, endless monologues about random topics no one's interested in. He doesn't pick up on social cues, and my parents enable it, calling him the professor like it's cute. My siblings and I are fed up. My older sister even eloped because Mom kept trying to give David a role in her wedding, which turned dress shopping into a lecture on wedding gown history. The breaking point came when David met Mel and me to see her engagement ring. Instead of congratulations, he launched into a spiel about how diamonds are worthless, don't resell well, and I should have gone for a second-hand or colored stone ring. Then he gave us a full history lesson on engagement rings and marriage traditions. We tried shutting him down, but he kept going, and Mom egged him on, saying, "Let the professor talk." Mel was livid, not just at David, but at my parents for defending him. That moment cemented her stance. David's not invited to our wedding. She's determined to have a real wedding, not elope like my sister did to avoid him. When Mom called to talk wedding plans, I laid it out. She and Dad can come as guests, but David's not invited. I brought up how David derailed my sister's wedding planning, and I wasn't letting that happen again. Mom went silent, then started crying. Dad took the phone and said he didn't understand why we hate David. I explained that his fun facts aren't harmless, they're disruptive, and no one enjoys them. Dad argued there's no harm in David talking, but I disagreed. His behavior alienates everyone, and my parents' refusal to set boundaries makes it worse. I told Dad if they can't respect our decision, they're not coming either. Mom's been texting everyone, saying I'm cruel and we need to understand David. But Mel and I agree. We can't trust them not to sneak him in. This isn't just about one rant. David's lack of boundaries has overshadowed every family event for years. My siblings and I have tried talking to him, but he doesn't listen, and my parents act like he's untouchable. Mel deserves a day that's about us, not David's trivia. I feel for him. He's isolated, and my parents' overprotection hasn't helped him grow. But I can't sacrifice our wedding to accommodate him. I keep wondering if I'm being too harsh. Maybe I could have found a way to include him with strict guidelines. But the risk of him hijacking our day feels too high, and my parents' track record doesn't inspire confidence. I hate cutting them out, but I'm done letting David's behavior dictate our family's happiness. Part of me feels guilty. David's not malicious, and his condition makes social situations tough. But his fun facts aren't just quirky, they're a wall that blocks out everyone else. My parents' refusal to see the harm makes it impossible to compromise. Mel and I want a joyful, drama-free wedding, and that means making tough calls. So Reddit, am I the asshole for excluding my brother from my wedding? Am I the asshole for pulling my daughter from soccer camp and banning her ghetto friends? I'm a single mom raising my 15-year-old daughter, Leah, who's been in soccer camp twice a week since summer started. She's a good kid, but recently she's been hanging out with two new friends I can't stand. They came over once and it was a disaster. They were loud, rude, and trashed my house, leaving cups everywhere, blasting music, and arguing when I asked them to quiet down. One even rolled her eyes at me. Worst of all, $40 disappeared from my kitchen counter. I banned them from coming back, which Leah wasn't thrilled about, but she still saw them at camp. I figured I could tolerate that as long as they stayed out of my home. Things took a turn when I got a call from Leah's coach. Apparently, Leah and her friends caused a scene at an Arby's near the camp. The coach showed me a video Leah recorded. Her friends were heckling the cashier, dumping their drinks on the floor, and flipping off the worker as they left. Leah was laughing and filming the whole thing. I was disgusted, not just with her friends, but with her for thinking it was funny. I grew up in a rough neighborhood, and yeah, I've seen behavior like that before. I'm black, Leah's mixed, and I've worked hard to give her a better life than I had. To me, their actions were straight up disrespectful, and frankly what I'd call ghetto in the worst way. I sat Leah down and told her she was done with soccer camp. I said she couldn't see those friends anymore because they're too loud, too rude, and a bad influence. She flipped out, saying I was unfair and only disliked them because they're ghetto. I didn't back down. I told her she was right. Their behavior was unacceptable, and I wasn't letting her hang around people who act like that. She's barely spoken to me since, sulking in her room. I told my sister about it, hoping for support, but she said I was being harsh and forgetting my roots. That stung. I know where I come from, but I don't want Leah thinking it's okay to disrespect people or act out like that. I keep second-guessing myself. Leah's at that age where friends mean everything, and pulling her from camp might feel like I'm taking away her social life. But I can't unsee that video, her laughing while her friends harassed someone. It's not just about them, it's about her choices too. I want her to understand consequences, but I wonder if I'm being too controlling. Maybe I could have let her stay in camp and just banned the friends outside of it. But then I think about the kind of person I want her to be, someone who respects others, not someone who films cruelty for laughs. My sister's comment about forgetting my roots keeps nagging at me. I fought hard to leave that environment behind, but am I judging these girls too harshly because of my own past? On the other hand, I can't ignore the red flags. The eye-rolling, the missing money, the Arby's incident, it's a pattern. Leah's never acted like this before, and I'm worried these friends are pulling her into trouble. I want to protect her, but I don't want to push her away either. She's shutting me out, and I'm scared this fight could damage our relationship. But letting her keep those friends feels like letting her slide into behavior I know is wrong. So Reddit, am I the asshole for pulling my daughter from soccer camp and banning her ghetto friends?